Oh, yeah. Here, I've got this up. I want to go over the FTX stuff and then maybe start reading about the Mick Gordon situation. FTX is another big crypto bro L. You love to see that. FTX was, I think, the second largest crypto exchange, at least for a time. You might know them because they bought naming rights to TSM, so they are TSM FTX. They also bought the naming rights to an arena in Miami, I believe. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen them. Well, they've recently filed for bankruptcy. I don't know, I haven't read too much into it, so I only know like the cliff notes. I believe the CEO's wealth has gone from like 22 billion to like $22 after this like a nightmarish crash that they've experienced. And it seems like it was just a full-blown like scam, top to bottom. And they also just got hacked for 600 million. Hacked in quotes. True, yeah, I guess that could be like the CEO himself going in to try and take 600 mil before it like really hits the fan. Now apparently CoffeeZilla did a whole video on this. I didn't see it get posted, but let me see. Before I just read all of the cliff notes. I always like his summations of everything. I think he does a great job of it. So here's the collapse, and here's going over the ramifications for everyone that put money into FTX. Let me see why the collapse happened.
Crypto Armageddon is here. The biggest players in the world are at war. They're fighting it out, and I'm here to tell you who won and what's next. Now, I'm going to be honest, I called this yesterday. I warned you guys that FTX, second largest exchange, might be insolvent.
I actually did see that tweet. I did see this come out from him, but I didn't really understand it. I didn't realize FTX was in such a bad position at the moment. And man, CoffeeZilla just has to have the biggest smile on his face 24/7 right now. Everything he says on his channel pretty much comes true. Because he does a lot of like speculative work, like here's the research I've done and here's what it could mean going forward. And like every single fucking time, he's like right on the money. Only a couple months later. It is wild. The guy's like an actual crypto prophet with predicting all these collapses.
Crazy. They said, no way the guy who described all of DeFi as a Ponzi scheme could be bad. Sam Bankman-Fried, he's just too smart. FTX, after all, is endorsed by Tom Brady. What could go wrong with another celebrity endorsement? People like Larry David backed FTX. Surely your funds are safe. Well, turns out they were actually in danger all along, and things are looking very bad. So I'm going to explain this entire mess very quick, but bear in mind this is a very dynamic situation. Things are changing by the hour. But let's get into it. Once there existed two rival crypto exchanges.
Binance number one, FTX number two. I remember when this first started blowing up, I read the headlines that Binance was about to buy FTX. And then I saw the next day they're like, absolutely fucking not. FTX is a disaster. We're not buying. So I believe that's where they're at. I don't believe Binance is still interested in purchasing the debris and the fragments of ash from FTX.
Binance and FTX, the number one and number two crypto exchanges. And their CEOs, CZ and SBF, or Sam Bankman-Fried, hate each other.
Here's a prime
That's
orange,
an important
tier
part
1
of this
JJ.
story. But things were
Freddie,
calm at first
Bissell,
for the
and
most part.
Assassin.
They played nice for years. Until recently, SBF decided to take a pot shot at his competitors' attempts to work with regulators and said, he is allowed to go to DC, right? Implying that CZ was banned. Now, he didn't know it at the time, but SBF set off World War III in crypto with this tweet, and he might have signed his own funeral. Because a few days later,
wasn't a
report
huge tweet,
came out
though.
from CoinDesk leaking FTX's financial balance sheet. And what it showed is that they had a lot of money, but it was sort of locked up in all these token projects they were a part of, most notably in FTT token, Solana, and other projects that they were behind. And they couldn't sell the projects anytime they wanted to. In other words, even though they had billions of dollars
They
worth
couldn't
of
use
assets,
it.
they weren't very liquid. And it was arguable that some of the coins weren't that valuable. So they couldn't get access to these funds immediately. Meanwhile, they had huge liabilities of $8 billion. $7.4 billion of which were loans. Now, Dirty Bubble Media, who is the person who called out the collapse of Celsius, which we've talked about extensively,
Oh, I
picked this
forgot
up
about
in a
that one.
scathing report. In it, he suggested that FTX and Alameda Research might be insolvent because all their money was locked up in these tokens that might be worthless. And if everyone tried to withdraw their money all at once, the company could likely not pay off their liabilities.
So that happens a lot. Something not too dissimilar that Coffee's talked about before was with Terra Luna. Though I guess actually not really. I guess they're not super comparable. But the collapse of Terra Luna seems pretty in line with the collapse of FTX, even though the actual motivator was a little different for both. A common thread is a dumb fucking CEO making stupid tweets that eventually send everything into a spiral, a death spiral that they can't recover from. Dokwon for Terra Luna, and now I guess SBF for FTX. For those that don't know who SBF is, I actually learned about him like 8 months ago because it was most generous billionaire, they called him. So there's this whole video about him. He was 28 years old at the time here, and the whole video is about how he's going to be giving billions away from his wealth to save the world, and like this really altruistic video about what a great guy SBF is. And for the longest time, that's all I really knew about him. And then this. Apparently the guy was super sketchy. Like, really shady. No, that is what the whole video is. I'm not making that shit up. This whole video is, like, sucking on his ass about how he's amazing. And then he sucks his own dick about, like, yeah, I'm kind of amazing because I'm so generous. Thanks for some Quacked, Sokage, Pirate, and Salty. And thanks for the raid. I hope you had a great stream. Thank you for that. Welcome. Sorry, I just saw that. Thanks the bits Kinway. And the resub Thick. And tier 1 GG and Prime Orange. That was wholesome. Welcome. Hope you guys like train wrecks here, because this shit is a fucking disaster. I love watching these things. Condolences to anyone that had money in the FTX exchange, though. God rest your soul. And your wallet. Thanks to the resub Bubbling in the tier 1 Tanaka.
Now, CZ saw this and decided to take an opportunity to strike against his biggest rival. He announced that day that because of recent revelations, because of that report, quote, we have decided to liquidate any remaining FTT on our books.
That's
now,
so
this is
big
massive,
dick.
given that FTX's #1 holding was
What the
FTT. Their competitor Binance is saying that they're going to dump up to $2.1 billion worth of it on the open market, causing that price to plummet. Now, all of a sudden, you don't even have illiquid funds. You just have none of those funds. So even though CZ said that this was not a move against a competitor, it kind of looked like it was, right?
I just say go mask off. This is an absolute gut punch here. So I guess the report highlighted that they didn't have access to those funds. They weren't liquid and they were like held in other tokens. So CZ read that and he's like, oh, bet. So that means they couldn't actually cash me out. So I'm going to tank everything. And he did. And I guess most people followed suit since the price tanked. Huge.
Of course he's going to say that. In reality, he knew what he was doing. Now, immediately, this stoked all sorts of fears about the solvency of FTX. And the fears spread like wildfire. Is FTX the next Luna? Is FTX the next Celsius? And people started to withdraw funds like crazy, which honestly was the logical move to make. The problem with crypto exchanges right now is that because there's no monetary insurance on your money, even if the probability of an exchange going bust is less than 1%, you still have to.
Why is my computer volume so low right now? God damn it.
To take all your money out, because if
That's
they
better.
do go bust, you lose everything. If it doesn't go bust, you only lose a fraction
Thanks,
of a
Resub
percent
2D
on
and
trading
Destroyer
fees
in the
for
Prime
being
Shack.
cautious. And so there's really nothing to risk by
I
taking
can
your
check
money
that out
out,
later,
and there's
Asterisk.
everything to risk by keeping it in. So basically that means bank runs are extremely common these days, and a lot of these exchanges, they're really not ready for it. In fact, Sam Bankman-Fried himself said that a lot of crypto exchanges are secretly insolvent, which was a bit of weird foreshadowing. But at first, it looked like FTX wouldn't go insolvent. A lot of people said this was very unlikely.
Please give sub
since
Tanaka
in the
and tier
past,
1
they
Coochie.
looked very strong. And that's what they basically said. They said, look, it's no big deal. This is all FUD, nothing to worry about. Alameda Research, who is closely tied to FTX, actually responded about these leaks in their financial balances. And they said, quote, they have $10 billion worth of assets that aren't reflected there. And that also, they have returned most of their loans by now. And most shocking of all was that they offered CZ to buy all of his FTT off market for $22 each, near the current price. Now, the reason for this is obviously to show that, okay, we're not scared. We've got the money to back this up. And if you really aren't trying to sink us as a competitor, you'll be happy to do this private deal, get a better price, and not impact our price. It would save both parties a lot of headache. But unsurprisingly, because these guys hate each other, CZ wasn't having it. He said he was going to stay in the free market.
Huge.
That he fully intended to squash the price of FTT. And he did.
So I don't know anything about CZ. I do know Binance pretty well. But I'm going to say I won't be surprised if some shit happens to CZ pretty soon. Because, I mean, this is a big dick play. And we've seen this before, like with Do Kwon and Terra Luna. When you start slinging meat like this, it always somehow bites you back. So maybe a year from now, we'll see something similar happen to Binance. I don't know. But for now, this shit goes hard.
FTT dropped over the next 24 hours 30%. And not only that, reports started showing that FTX withdrawals were increasing. The bank run really was happening like CZ wanted. And this is where we have to go back to Alameda's CEO, what they said about having $10 billion worth of assets. Because there's some really key caveats about those claims. What are those $10 billion
tier one
worth
reason.
of assets? Are they cash? Because if they are, they're probably fine. But if there's something like more FTT token or more of Sam's other projects that he can't sell, well, that's going to be a significant problem for them when everybody's running and asking for their crypto back and they just don't have it. So questions were flying about what exactly FTX was doing with your money when you deposited it. Were they just giving it to Alameda Research, which is sort of acting like a hedge fund and trading with your crypto, trying to make a big return? Or were they keeping your funds safe and just practicing proper risk management? Well, this is where everyone just basically waited with bated breath to see what was going to happen.
And everyone loved the answer.
Uh-oh, this looks pretty bad. They froze withdrawals. And at the same time, the team basically went totally silent. And people commented on how bad this looks on them. Why aren't they speaking? And people started to circle back to old clips of Sam Bankman-Fried describing DeFi and crypto as basically a Ponzi scheme positively. And they wondered, how did any of us trust this guy?
I think about
That is how all of this shit plays out. You have an absolute disaster, and then everyone, like, it's like post-nut clarity. Everyone's like, all of a sudden, all of these red flags for years. What the fuck was I thinking? Like, every time. It has to be like some level of brainwashing, right? Where you just, it sounds so good, so you convince yourself it's all true, and you ignore all of that shit. Like, you go against better judgment and logic just to continue to believe in it. I don't know. It's so weird, though. That happens in, like, every situation so far, with crypto specifically. There's the resub Elgato, Itanori, and that guy Yav. Just to confirm, I'm understanding the FTX collapse. Over 1 million people put $1 billion in assets into a crypto company founded in the Bahamas by a 28-year-old. There's a little more nuance than that, but I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess. That 28-year-old, though, is very likable. He was saving the world, god damn it. There's the resub. Go ahead and Ruben. The resub Swift. They confused speculation with investing strategy. They confused speculation with investing. Strategy wasn't their strong suit. I guess. I mean, this whole thing seems like an absolute fucking disaster.
myself as like a fairly cynical person, and that was so much more cynical than how I would have described farming. Like, you're just like, well, I'm in the Ponzi business, and it's pretty good.
At no point did any of this require any sort of, like, economic case. It's just like, other people put money in the box, and so I'm going to too, and then it's more valuable, so I'm going to put more money in. And at no point in the cycle did it seem to like describe any sort of like economic purpose.
So yeah, things are looking really grim. But if you have your money locked up on FTX and you're clinched up right now, take a deep breath because things look like they might be fine. Although,
so this was 4 days ago. Things weren't fine. It wasn't. This is Charles from the future. It was anything but fine. Thanks to Bits Hex. This is like the one time CoffeeZilla's been wrong because he was being a little too optimistic. Yeah. So this was mainly the basics I wanted to get. So this explains how the collapse happened. It seemed like it was almost entirely started because of CZ and that leaked information coming out and him exploiting it. And you know what? That sounds deserved, honestly. Thanks to Prime Sandman. Yeah, I know you uploaded it. I was going in order here. So he's been covering it, like, actively because it's been so, like, evolving every day. It's because SBF were being hella irresponsible. Yeah, I mean, that too, obviously. But it seems like it really all started when CZ made that massive dump, and then it just started that collapse. Thanks a Bits Reason, the resub Bear, Kizzy, and the Prime Sandman. Crypto bros are all like decentralized, and now one person from the biggest exchange can just take down the second biggest exchange. Well, I saw that floating around a lot. This really wasn't like decentralized. Like SBF kind of made it clear it wasn't really. It exposed how centralized crypto is right now. Yep, I guess. Thanks for the Bits Reason, and yeah, man. Thanks for the resub Arcane. The channel that did the Roblox investigation released a 30-minute video on Steam's gambling issues. Which one? Not Ruben, right? Because I didn't see Ruben uploaded in the last couple days. Is it People Make Games? Thanks for 5 gift subs, HL2. Thank you for that. The resub Tappy, Frizzy, and Blast. And thanks for resub Midnight. CZ bankrupts his biggest competitor while also destroying the people who invested just because he can, and idiots still think crypto is a good investment. Well, I mean, you'll get no argument from me. I don't think anyone is under the impression crypto's in a great spot. Hopefully people stop putting money into crypto, like that'd be huge, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. All these sad stories are just going to continue to pile up. Like, I laugh at like FTX and this guy, the CEO, but I feel bad for like the 60-year-old dudes who just got convinced by their frat bro grandchildren that their money was better off invested in crypto because it's guaranteed returns or some shit. I do feel bad for them. Thanks, resub Goose. Average people get fucked more than anyone at the top. No, I mean they do. Average people absolutely lose more, but I think the people at the top get like super fucked as well. Dokwon, I think, is still on the FBI's most wanted list, right? Let me see. That was the guy behind Terra Luna. Let me just do Doquan. Let me see if it comes up. Martin Shkreli tells Doquan jail's not that bad. From billionaire to nearly homeless, the tale of 3 crypto CEOs. Huge. Thanks to the bits, MacArthur, and Wasted. Hey, glad you like it. Nothing too crazy so far, but we haven't gone through all of the forum yet. Average people don't have the money to lose, so they get it worse. Yeah, I would agree with that. But at least the people at the top do face huge repercussions. Like, again, I'm pretty sure Doquan is still one of the most wanted because he ran. At least he did when it first happened, and they're trying to track him down. Maybe he's not anymore. Thanks, Resub Diego. And the Prime Jockster. Oh! Jeez, thanks for the Resub MRP. And the Fat 50 drop, Dark Prof. Thank you for that. God damn. Jesus Christ. Thanks, Resub Clanky. Thank you for the generosity, man. Good lord. Did you, like, short FTX or something? Fucking fat paycheck. Police chase time? No. The next thing I wanted to learn about was the Mick Gordon situation. But yeah, this is still only the tip of the iceberg for FTX. I just wanted, like, the general overview on how all of it happened, because I find it to be super interesting and entertaining. The more nitty-gritty of it's sad, like, to the people that lost all their money. Because that shit's not coming back. Thanks, Resub Gianni and Hex in the Prime. Flick and Resub Arkrim and Hone. Haven't finished God of War yet. We'll be playing it later on tonight.